At this moment, the world has entered the Ice Age. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 476. Now in the air carrier conference room, the Oriental military exhibition has gone 2/3 of the steps. At present, every flight technology shows the outstanding Air Force of the Oriental Air Force, the age of science and technology at the Army level, and the age of science and technology at the Navy level of 0.99, and the civilized power that the Air Force now shows infinitely close to the first level. Ying Ziyue is very satisfied, because now every flying formation in the East is equipped with extremely modern ultra-sci-fi technology to bomb, destroy, and evade high-altitude flying through extreme weather, and target every project in the world, and every Air Force technology and combat capability has been demonstrated. Highly unified, this kind of air mothership that can be called a perverted Avildor. And the remaining two team leaders in the conference room stood up, and one was the military round fighter formation leader. He stood straight now, and then introduced Ying Ziyue, report team leader, because this is a new type of Air Force technology product of the Ice Age and a new type of flight equipment. Leader of the report, the military prototype fighter also uses super reaction power as a primary energy source, and UFO as the fitness body, which means that this stealth fighter belongs to the military strategic atmosphere, and the maximum flight speed has reached an hour 2900 kilometers. It can shuttle any area at the same time. It has an altitude of 80,000 meters. Any area, any altitude will be shuttled under rapid flight countercurrent at the same time. This material uses the 15th configuration of graphene, which means that it has super stealth, super silent terrorist protection, and so on. The fighter radar uses the 27th voice controlled radar, which is a phased array radar after 27 evolutions. This radar has super signal anti-kill capture, avoiding and hiding. It can be said that the military's prototype fighter belongs to the first UFO anti-gravity war in the Ice Age. The report team leader and the air carrier aerial circular fighter formation requested this exercise. This is the best New Year gift dedicated to the 23rd year of the Ice Age of the Motherland. After the military round fighter captain spoke, Ying Ziyue nodded point. At this moment, the 20,000 meter high altitude weather has changed again, and the extreme weather has hit again. This time the weather has directly turned into a terrible snowstorm. Once a blizzard occurs at an altitude of 20,000 meters, a person who falls into it will face the symptoms of drowning. This is unimaginable, but it is true, because at an altitude of 20,000 meters, it will fall into a piece of blizzard. Any fighter inside will face extremely depressive blizzards, hail, raindrops. There are also various rains that continuously impact into ice and snow cities, etc. It can be said that the airship advance in this kind of weather is full of dangers, but the hundreds of military circular fighters on the air carrier number 4 runway are not. Any hesitation. 0 Find flow start up, raw, takeoff point. The flight runway is very large, with a total of 100 military prototype passenger planes, each of which is round in shape and silver white, and looks almost exactly the same as a UFO in the civilization period. 0 Then accompanied by the tower, after detailed reports on basic weather pressure, flight conditions, flying maneuvers, combat targets, Siberia, and all weapon strikes, the defense system was lifted. Then the flight system was activated. At this moment, the flying fighters took off vertically like UFOs, and then the terrifying speed directly crossed to the blizzard rain layer, and this satellite carried out real-time capture and cut the picture analysis. Then the 100 prototype passenger planes were like a flock of birds, advancing quickly under various severe blizzards. Pieces of rain came, but the gravity system is extremely stable, and every fighter does not tremble. At this moment, it is like hundreds of UFOs flying across the sky. This is just one of the manifestations of the Eastern Air Force. Death Chapter 477. It's dark now, and the thunder is awesome. Directly hundreds of military UFO fighter jets are shuttled in terror. A piece of thunderstorm. There is a clear display of satellites, so the air pressure, altitude, pressure, etc. of the flight are clearly appearing at the same time shown in the picture. Now this scene is an extremely stunning aerial picture that is hundreds of UFO military fighters ! 20,000 meters of thunderstorms and blizzards piled up in the 4040 accumulated weather and then moved forward fast, passing through the Fengshu land. Now under this kind of bad weather, these UFO machines seem to form one by one. Little silver flying. Unlike flying motorcycles and bombing airships, military UFO flying fighters are equipped with military flying operations. It means that you can rush out of the solar system to carry out rescue operations at the necessary moment. The author is truly united with the moon and only introduces engineering and the anti-gravity large-scale flying fighters equipped with the magical ancient star laser strike project, so the missions they carry are also extremely important. Now 100 UFO military fighters quickly crossed 20,000 altitudes from the east coast and began to gradually cross the center of the Pacific Ocean, and then came to the Siberian Weapon Test Base number 10 base, no 10 base, in the Ice Age. When it comes to number 10 test base, it is a large-scale strategic, Army, Navy, Air Force and other experimental weapons base number 10, the top test site for the Navy, Land, and Air Forces. And now, in the air carrier conference room, one picture appears one by one. That is the picture displayed on the main interface of the military UFO, which is connected to the picture in the conference room, which means that the captain present can watch the first picture of the cockpit. The sign before the first attack point. The main conference room of the air carrier has been connected to the main screen of the military UFO fighter. The program is being imported in the current screen connection. All combat system defense systems are successfully imported. You have entered the number 10 test area in Siberia. At present, in addition to the defense mechanism and monitoring mechanism in Siberia, this test is for fixed point bombing, missile tracking, weapon strike, weapon defense, and UFO, rapid decline and reverse rise test. Currently, the overall height is 1725 meters. The wind speed pressure is 0.90279. And the wind speed is 30 kilometers per second. A high-firing ultra-speed tracking missile will be launched on the ground. This is a missile that has undergone mutation during the technological period. It has a terrorist flight with 5 detonation speeds. It can quickly track any fighter bomber in the civilization period. We realize all the advanced technology here. There is nothing to dodge under this kind of missile. So-called radar can't dodge. Now start combat simulation open. The main interface is displayed, then one by one automatic cruise missiles on the ground were launched towards the sky. This terrifying missile shows a flying speed of 5 times the speed of sound, passing through the thunderstorm clouds. Clouds of smoke appeared in the sky. This is how Dongfang's test directly exploded to the extreme point. Every pilot is methodical. Start anti-gravity. The super engine starts. At this moment, the running anti-gravity engine starts. 5.5 The terrifying UFO fighter takes off directly from an altitude of 1000 meters and is visible to the naked eye at an altitude of 80,000 meters. Fighters one after another are like silver lights rushing into the sky, side by side with the blue sky. Finally, UFO fighters launched small missiles. At this moment, the UFO fighter in the air was directly condescending and destroyed the cruise missiles above the ground. Test was successful. Amazing. Chapter 478. Now it's the end of the air carrier, the last military exercise. At this moment Ying Ziyue and all the captains walked out of the air carrier conference room. Everyone is wearing flight backpack clothing, all wearing flight suit safety suits, and all the backpacks are equipped with parachutes and various safety devices, because this is an air carrier at an altitude of 20,000 meters above the surface. No one knows that once an extremely terrifying danger occurs, they will fall from an altitude of 20,000 meters. So this kind of clothing is extremely expensive, but the protection facilities are also extremely perfect. Similar to a small aircraft, a group of people came to the flight runway codenamed 002. This is not a variety of fighters, nor is it an airship one by one, but a brand new one that is flight packs taking off in formation. The flying back 02 bag was very widely circulated in the civilization period. They are jet flight backpacks. After wearing them, they can perform short jet flight levitation, but the flight time is less after the Ice Age. Nuclear-powered flight packs began to appear, also in the form of jets, but they were not very useful in the Ice Age, because such flight packs could not carry out long-term mobile flights, such as flying one day and one night, such as flying a large area, such as flying a large area, to collect a large target. The flight backpack is more used for scientific research and reconnaissance, snow mountain survey, and other scientific research and industrial targets, but now, the Air Carrier Air Force team shows the most perfect flight backpack point, that is, the military flight backpack is completely different from the ordinary flight backpack. The military flight backpack uses nearly 4 layers of protective devices, as well as nuclear fission and light anti-gravity propulsion devices. Man-made measure. After putting on this device, the body condition and overall condition will be greatly improved. Point at this moment, on the 002 flight runway, a total of 200 Air Force fighters began to wear black flight backpacks, and everyone was equipped with black flying combat uniforms. It looked like they were like eagles headed by head. Then the captain of the flight backpack formation spoke, preparing to take off. You are the last batch of these forces in the Air Force. What you show now is also the Eastern Ice Age Air Force. You represent the Air Force and the next development of the Air Force, ready to take off. At the last moment of takeoff, Zhangbo, the captain of the air carrier, spoke. At this moment after he spoke, the breath seemed to stop instantly. This time it was not just a bursting breath, but a roaring breath coming. That is, 200 pilots with flight backpacks took off directly, using a semi-jet takeoff. I saw them like eagles, starting to take off at a perfect angle, flying like a black eagle, soaring in the sky, flying in all directions, in the sky. They formed a pattern of wings one by one. One word pattern, cross pattern, red flag pattern, military fighter pattern, circular UFO pattern. At the same time, everyone is also equipped with automatic launch weapons, small tracking weapons, small counterattack weapons, and small strike weapons. This means that these Air Force fighters can also be carried out at high altitude, and the enemy can strike and attack by war. This scene makes Ying Ziyue even more excited, because this is in line with the future world, and what he sees in the future world should be the scene in front of him. What he imagined in the future world, that is on the land, the south has become a sky corridor, and the north has become a giant's paradise. The buildings of those cities are weird and magical, and beautiful. Above the sea is an icebreaker, a giant ship. In the sky is an airship, a flying backpack, a flying chariot, a UFO flying fighter. This is what he imagined. The next future world of the East, now all come true in 1/10. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 479. What is the future world? The display of the East in front of us is 100% showing the future world of the East. The stunning scenes began to appear. 200 flight packs of Air Force fighters fly freely in the sky. The stability, flight level and protection of military flight packs are excellent, which can ensure that they are flying in the sky like eagles. Ying Ziyue nodded. He was very satisfied. Now, he looked at every area, and at first glance it was a land area. He could see it even at an altitude of 20,000 meters. A year later, the global channel was almost half completed. It can be said that the cities in the south are expected to give him a big surprise. Because the cities in the south are amazingly air corridors. That is, a 100-story city is densely packed with corridors in the air. It looks like a city in the future. It is magical. This is the direction that the southern city wants to move forward. The northern city is a propeller-style skyscraper with 700 or 800 stories, thousands of stories, or even 4,000 to 5,000 stories, reaching the sky. It looks like a giant's paradise and a giant's dwelling place. At the same time, it is equipped with a global channel, so the land military will give a huge surprise. As for the ocean, you must know that within this year, he will float on the ocean almost half of the time, driving a flying chariot, and witnessed it with his own eyes. Scenes of the ocean. Scenes 1. The ocean is the most majestic and majestic point. Pieces of ocean with bright and vigorous vitality. Icebreakers, airships, aircraft carriers are all stunning and perfect appearance, so the ocean has given him great confidence. Finally, the Air Force's current altitude of 20,000 meters, standing on the surface of the air carrier. Feeling the greatness of every era, Ying Ziyue smiled a lot, and he enjoyed the majestic feeling brought by the air carrier, so now he salutes everyone. After Ying Ziyue salutes, Zhangbo, the chief designer of the air carrier, also begins to salute. They are soldiers. Soldiers don't need to say anything. The duty of soldiers is to protect the people, defend their homes and the country, where they deserve it. And now at 2 PM on December 30th 23rd Ice Age, the Overlord's flying chariot was completely repaired, and finally parked on the air carrier 001 runway. The cabin door opened, Ying Ziyue boarded the flying chariot, and then said goodbye to everyone. Because next, after a long time passing through the Antarctic Scientific Research Station, Africa, Siberia, Mount Everest Taping Sea Center, and so on one by one area, next he will go home. On the takeoff stage of the air carrier, the Flying Air Force formation captains were saluting, and they were serious and solemn. At the same time, Ying Ziyue also showed a soft smile, his expression excited. The co-pilot Engineer Li Hao is also excited, because for Engineer Li Hao, after a year of wandering, what he misses now is his hometown, and then he will return to his hometown, because they have been to too many places this time. At this moment, accompanied by the cold wind and thunderbolt, the flying car began to slowly take off, and the 3 major engines have been rapidly turned on. Afterwards, the flying chariot flew from an altitude of 20,000 meters and began to move towards the eastern Dragon City during the Ice Age, and it has always been called the 23rd year of the Ice Age. On December 30th, Ying Ziyue of the East accompanied Li Hao, deputy team leader, and then inspected the Antarctic Research Station Taping Sea Center, the Siberian Proving Ground, Mount Everest, and the air carrier, Western Agricultural Area, Industrial Area. After the inspection, Ying Ziyue returns to Longcheng. This is positioned by the chronicles The Inspection of the Ancestors of the Ancestors, Miscellaneous Chapter 480. Now the black flying chariot is like a flash of lightning, starting from the offshore air carrier in the east. This trip is a journey home. The main location of the air carrier is in the southeast waters of the east, far from the Pacific Ocean. The Novosibirsk Strike Center and the Mount Everest military platform are very close. It can be said that it belongs to the total core area of these 3 regions, and it is also in line with the strategic military reserve position of the Air Force. At the same time, the altitude and regional customs pressure of the air carrier and the equatorial environment are the best environments. Now the flying tank is beginning to lower its altitude, because this time it's a journey home, not a flying journey. The speed of the flying train began to slowly drop by 1,800 km per hour. It changed from 443 to 600 km per hour, and the altitude dropped from 20,000 meters to 10,000 meters, and then 8,000 meters to 5,000 meters, 4,000 meters, then 3,000 meters, 2,000 meters. The last is 1,000 meters. At the height of 11,000 meters, it was found that this is also the prompt on the main interface. You have entered the territory of the East and are currently undergoing a risk control inspection form and model, a travel task execution form, and the automatic radar sensor matching is normal. Welcome back to the Oriental Overlord Flying Chariot. At this moment, the Eastern Autonomous Defense System and the Flying Chariot Defense System launched a joint attack investigation. This is what the East's current defense and control system can be called: stunning air defense. Once an unknown flying probe flies into the East region, it will gradually manifest this one. Once the connection sensing cannot be completed, so many air defense systems will strike. All kinds of strikes: high-speed missiles above the ground, above the sea, aircraft carrier, air-to-air carrier strikes, as well as Mount Everest, the center of the Pacific Ocean in Siberia, will strike. The Eastern Air Defense Forces of the Ice Age looked extremely terrifying. It's just that no one knows, or can say that no one can make the Eastern Air Defense System start a real explosion. But now I feel the terrifying air defense system. Ying Ziyue has a sacred and comfortable smile on his mouth. This is in line with the first level space civilization, and this is in line with the future trend of Eastern science fiction. The 1,000-meter high altitude flying chariot flies at the lowest speed at the same time, but the picture before me is still beautiful to the extreme, because even in the no man's land on the border in the east, there are traces of human life here. It is not like the West and even more than 6,000 islands in the world or Africa and other regions that carry desolation and barrenness. Without any breath of life, it seems to give people a sense of tragic and desolate nature, because the traces are covered by ice and snow. But at that time on the border of the east, even in the no man's land, you can feel a burst of vigorous vitality. This is the east. Ying Ziyue saw it at first glance. Under the naked eye, there are towering and undulating lighthouses. The lighthouses have many functions, illuminating the dazzling world. The giant lighthouses illuminating a piece of forest. The basic height has reached 500 meters. A black lighthouse is beginning to connect with each other. It can be seen to the naked eye that the two lighthouses are connected every 3 kilometers, which means that the lighthouses are connected to form a small air corridor. Some scientific researchers and some tourists can climb the rock and observe the unparalleled scenery, but seeing it from an altitude of 1100 meters, then I will see the most shocking lighthouse corridor in history. Chapter 481. Now Ying Ziyue is looking at this scene with sigh. This scene is simply magical to the extreme. Every 3 kilometers, those uninhabited areas, hilly basins, cliffs, giant mountains and other lighthouses stand. Then lighthouses are connected together. It is like a small overpass that fills every mountain and valley. Below the lighthouse are snow-capped mountains, icebergs, and cliffs where all kinds of mountains and rivers command orders. Xihai smiled in the co-pilot. He was familiar with this scene, because he was the proponent of this plan. That is not only the global corridors and space corridors, urban corridors, etc. He proposed the lighthouse corridor plan. That is, due to the extremely advanced development of outdoor civilization in the east, lighthouses have been built in almost all high mountains and uninhabited areas. Therefore, he proposed to connect those lighthouses that can be connected with the current human civilization and connect them into strips. The ropeway, the glass plank roads are occupied one by one, which means that a small road in the wilderness can be built. This road can be walked, scientific research can be carried out, and detection can be carried out. At the same time, it also makes the east more magical and magical sacred. These lighthouses, these corridors are also equipped with defensive perception, hazard detection, and this is also the most beautiful and unparalleled scenic spot in the east. Ying Ziyue was very satisfied when he entered the eastern border lighthouse for the first time. He watched the dense black snakes go away, and once again felt the power of humans gathering. This power is extremely exuberant with the breath of life. This is also the reason why he loves this country, because every citizen is working hard for new victories. Although some people are losing, everyone makes this country more prosperous and brighter. This is the core essence of the power of the East, which is unmatched by any country. After passing through the lighthouse corridor area at the same time, the speed of the flying tank is slower. The 3 engines have become the most basic one. The propulsion engine adopts nuclear fission into propulsion, which means that the flight speed is stable and the energy consumption is extremely high. Small, it can continue to fly for nearly 17 days and consumes 50% of fuel. It can be seen that the flying tank consumes horrible speed. The flying chariot has been lowered to 800 meters, and it will not tremble at all in the slow and steady flight through one piece, like a person sitting on a stable car. At the same time, there are no longer those lighthouses below. The lighthouses are mainly in some uninhabited and wilderness areas. Zero find flowers when you really get out of the eastern region. There are icebergs and snowy mountains. There are many icebergs and snow mountains in the east. The ice age lasts for 23 years. The endless snowstorms make any place in the world full of snowstorms and icebergs. It is impossible for humans to push all the snow-capped mountains and glaciers into the sea. Otherwise, no matter how many sea walls are built, they will not be able to withstand the pressure of rising sea water. Therefore, the East adopts the snow-capped mountains and icebergs construction plan, so the 800 meters a more magical scene can be watched at high altitude. Or this scene is not magic, but the East directly made nature into their hearts. Looking down at a height of 1,800 meters, you will see the most amazing scene in history. I can only see icebergs standing on the wastelands of the east and southwest borders, some of which are more than 1000 meters high. Some are 700 to 800 meters high, and some are 400 to 500 meters high, but the icebergs are all carved and trimmed neatly, and they are located in order. That is, each glacier has been solidified, just like giant ice sculptures. This epic scene is just the beginning. Death Chapter 482. Now is an even more miraculous scene. Those icebergs have been windproofed by the east, and the icebergs thousands of meters have been carved into a giant dragon. When lying on the ground, it looks hideous and exudes a silvery white ice and snow atmosphere. At the same time, some icebergs were carved into phoenix patterns, and they were carved into patterns of gods and beasts, one by one, unique oriental patterns. Those snow-capped mountains have also been built into model animals 4477, eastern mountains and seas, and various cute animal ice sculptures of the Chinese zodiac. The ice-carved icebergs are like weeds. They are neatly trimmed and located in an orderly manner, like nature's most natural reservoir. The reason why I can feel the vigorous vitality here is that these icebergs once again carry human traces. Ying Ziyue has a smile on her face. That is, the people of the east have truly conquered the icebergs and snow mountains. They have made all the icebergs and snow mountains in the east into their own appearance, so these icebergs and snow mountains have all become human scenic spots, and they are also the best in the east. Beautiful scenic area. Every year tourists come to the border to take photos. Now the engineer Leo on the co-pilot, thinking of the snowy mountains in the west, he couldn't help but sigh very much. Leo's mood is very complicated, and he can't help but sigh, especially when he looks at the perfect appearance of the eastern snow mountain below the ground. Those snow-capped mountains have been carved and built. Those snow-capped mountains, like the best handicrafts, are carved in the shape of hands of the people of the east, whether they are thousands of meters high or hundreds of meters high. But this year he has been to the Western Antarctic Scientific Research Station, the terrible snow-forbidden area, Siberia, Mount Everest, the African region, and so on. He has seen those blizzards, the glaciers of the snow-capped mountains, and the Western Eagle Country, Rose Country, the terrifying snow-capped mountains and ice mountain avalanches, which are the most desperate for the Western people, and they even feel the trembling of their souls when they see the icebergs, because for the Western people for more than 2 decades, ice and snow mountains and icebergs have meant despair. But now, engineering Leo sees it in the east. He knows that for the people of the east, these icebergs and snowy mountains are not in any danger, because the east will turn them into handicrafts. In this ancient and mysterious country, he seems to be transformed into a giant and then fights with nature. This is an extremely magical scene, and it is also the only greatest and shocking struggle of mankind. Ying Ziyue's expression was very happy, because he also saw that there are traces of human technology under the iceberg. That is, under an iceberg, and some people are equipped with iceberg moving tracks, which means that they have dug through the iceberg. This is similar to the dark caves. Small snowmobiles are equipped under the snow-capped mountains, and human beings can travel under the snow-capped mountain caves. The icebergs are all opened up, extremely bright. Snowmobiles are moving, charging unscrupulously in the ice and snow. The scene of this scene with technology, with human beings, with conquering nature, with an extreme picture beauty. Therefore, Ying Ziyue, who was driving the car, also had a smile on his face. He also went to many places. His ice age has survived for 23 years, and he has fought countless disasters, but he has been at ease only in his own country. The speed of the flying tank starts. The speed starts to get faster. He can't wait to see a scene from this great country. Newborn picture. Perfect picture. Chapter 483. At this moment, the flying chariot began to roar, and the speed was still getting faster and faster. Like a flash of lightning, it began to rise to 750 kilometers per hour. The sky began to travel through a month-long area, rolling majestic lighthouse corridors and lighthouses, shining in darkness, shining on the uninhabited land, and shining on the border pieces of snow-capped mountain scenic spots appeared. The iceberg corridor and the iceberg moving area appear. One after another icebergs that have been ignited appeared. The dotted snowy mountains and the snowmobiles moving under the 02 glacier. The people are all playing in excitement. People in the East are no longer afraid of the supernatural in front of them because they are so beautiful. Then the flying chariot drove across the border to the middle, where it began to gradually approach the eastern inland city, and now there are more and more traces of human pictures. One by one small outdoor buildings appeared. This is a small fully enclosed tent. The small tent adopts the plan of the fantastic ancient Star Mars base and the Antarctic Scientific Research Station, which means that this is a system of outdoor houses. I saw small outdoor houses located on top of every mountain in the inner city. These are stone mountains, some hundreds of meters high to several kilometers high, and some small scientific research residences are located on the tops of various mountains, caves, as well as above the lighthouse, etc. This small building is also full of vitality point. Each small building is marked with detailed instructions, namely, a biological research post, a temporary post, and so on. Point with the increasing number of these outdoor buildings, the images of human beings seen by flying chariots became more and more, and then highways appeared. Point, whether in the civilization period or in the Ice Age. The highway means civilization, the continuation of civilization, the birth of civilization, and the baptism of civilization. Point at an altitude of 800 meters, you can see a piece of highway appearing. Point the highways are densely packed like a free-growing tree root. Every highway is equipped with an extremely intelligent detection system, which leads to every scientific research site in every city in the north and south, the land of the mountains, and the outbreak of the Cambrian land. Point. And on that highway are these colorful vehicles: silver-white vehicles, gray vehicles, gray-white, gray-black, and military green vehicles, one by one off-road vehicles, military blizzard chariots, scientific survey vehicles. People's vehicles are all appearing collectively in the civilized period. Scenes are reappearing, only in the form of more technological vehicles. Now the East has liberalized travel, which means that many people drive vehicles and go out for travel. Point upon seeing this scene, Ying Ziyue was very pleased, because the East has completely become a high-end field and a country of petty bourgeoisie. The people here only need to study, research, study, machine, high-end study every day. They can enjoy ample travel life. It can be said that after nearly 23 years of hard work and fighting against disasters one after another, it is truly hard won for all the people in the East to get this kind of life. And now the flying chariot is galloping like a flash of lightning. Ying Ziyue and Li Hao are like two children returning home, watching every scene with admiration. Point the prototype of the future world of science and technology one by one, incisively and vividly, show it perfectly. Chapter 484. Now this is a brand new scene, that is, with more and more pictures in front of you, more and more switching, so those great pictures appeared. The winding snake lighthouse corridor in the east appears. Those lighthouse corridors are connected to each other. They are extremely shocking. They represent the stalwart of the Eastern era. This is a project that is enough to shock the times. To be held and shocked. Point finally, a more brand new picture appeared. Icebergs began to connect, and dragon-like iceberg corridors appeared. This is a new scene. This is also one of the barriers on the eastern border, because these iceberg corridors can withstand a certain degree of cold current and cold wave. You must know that the Cambrian plant exploded, the animal exploded, each species and life was undergoing a new form of explosion. Therefore, the iceberg corridor has a great effect, and it has strong vitality. Point then there are all kinds of weird oriental outdoor buildings appearing, one by one. For example, similar to human caves, human lighthouses, and various buildings. The continuous ups and downs bring the stunning sense of the times. Perfect shock, ups and downs until Ying Ziyue's flying chariot entered the inner eastern city. The flying altitude is now 600 meters and the flying speed is 200 kilometers per hour. This is already the lowest flying speed. The flying tank is now activated by the emergency system. Point this is a twin turbine redesigned by the Ice Age Turbine Institute. It means that the flight speed is extremely stable, which is very suitable for low speed and slow flight. It does not feel any airflow vibration, flight vibration and air pressure vibration, just like flying in the sky. Point now entering the eastern inland city. The basic temperature, pressure, wind speed, extreme weather and severe weather are decreasing. Because the oxygen concentration in the eastern inland cities is extremely high, the high oxygen concentration ushered in the outbreak of plants and life, and the appearance of towering trees and grasses, flowers and plants, and patches. The sea of flowers all appeared one after another, showing the bright life posture with exuberant vitality. This is a new show, new world. At this height, looking down, what you see is a whole new scene. One by one, the roads are winding and undulating, and those highways carry a sense of life. During the 23 years of the Ice Age, these roads opened up and the ice and snow have appeared one after another in the east. Blizzard chariots have carried out large-scale residual snow removal, and cleared out one by one obstacle point. Then a new scene appeared, and this moment was accompanied by a sound of vibration, as if there was a whistling sound. In the sea of snow, in the fog, Ying Ziyue saw the greatest scene in the east from a height of 600 meters. That was the track. Pieces of train tracks appeared. The tracks looked like the footprints of human technology. This also means that they have entered the eastern civilization area, the human settlement area. At the same time, the whistle sound from the sky. On the track, a huge snow country train that undulates like a silver dragon travels. The snow country train began to roar. Under the dark night, the train looked like a giant dragon, shuffled across the snowy sea and glaciers, then began to gallop on the train tracks. At this moment, Ying Ziyue felt relieved, because he saw the snow country train. Snow country train. There are too many representatives about this scene. Since the beginning of the Ice Age and the civilization period, the snow country train seems to be a symbol of the times. Chapter 485. Now there is only one color left in the sky, and only one sound is left. That is, the snow country train. When the snow country train appeared, it also meant entering the most civilized place in the East. Because education in the East is now 3 times larger than before. Many large plates in Ziyue have undergone large-scale expansion after the plate collision, and some plates have been fragmented. Therefore, the snow country train in the East is similar to the boundary line of civilization. The snow country train is the most civilized medical science, technology, and biology college, mechanical science and other academic places, as well as the city of human civilization, the most civilized area, and the most civilized area. Fresh air, the richest plants erupted above. However, in addition to the snow country train, the East also shows what makes the West coveted. For example, the lighthouses are connected to the tower corridor and become the most beautiful scenic area. There are also snow-capped mountains that have been built. The iceberg corridor. Those icebergs look extremely beautiful. There are also those rolling outdoor buildings, iceberg corridors and lighthouses, all outside of the snow country train. These are the areas of the Eastern civilization, but even so, these areas of the civilization are more than 100 times stronger than the Western steam civilization. These are 2 eras. One is the era of science and technology, and the other is the era of steam. But now, the sound of a whistle is heard in the sky, and the snow on the track is washed away, as if a giant vehicle is crashing everything. This is the snow country train. The overall track is nearly 35 meters long. The snow country train looks like it is. A silver white mountain is moving. It looks like a giant dragon from an ancient oriental legend. It is divided into 3 layers while moving, so it looks like a giant train close to 200 kilometers starts moving at a height of 600 meters. Ying Ziyue can see it clearly. It's so great. He used to be on the surface, standing on the ground, or on the city wall, or on the ice and snow glacier, to watch the snow country train. So he felt straight and white. But now he is watching the snow country train rapidly spreading and moving from the angle of the air, especially at a height of 600 meters. What he can feel is a shock of the times. This train is really like a giant dragon. Moving quickly, shockingly cruising forward, the co-pilot Xihai watched with excitement. He was not born in the civilized period, so he didn't know that there were high-speed rails and trains in modern times, but his favorite was the global snow country train. 0 fine flowers for him. This train is simply the greatest plan for mankind at present. The train transports any area of the world, any area for all material exchanges. It can be said that the train will be the connecting channel of civilization of the era. It connects the civilizations of every region and witnesses the rise of Eastern civilization. It also allows the West to see how terrifying the Eastern civilization is. 0 report team leader. I saw the snow country train, and I felt the breath of going home. The snow country train has been 23 years since the civilization period. Within 23 years, the snow country train has changed from a national train to a global train. The track laying has changed from the original 6 million square kilometers to 26 million square kilometers. At the same time, the passenger capacity of the snow country train has changed from the original 60,000 to 10,000 people. Chen Hao reported, extremely excited. Ying Ziyue nodded. Yes, in 23 years, he witnessed the rise of snow country train, and snow country train also witnessed the rise of this great country. Death. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 486. Now the snow country train is galloping, and he seems to be guiding. Fang Point guided the flying chariot into a civilized city. At the same time, military highways began to appear. It should be understood that there are two types of expressways in the civilized area of the Ice Age. The first type of expressway is a civil expressway, the civilian use of Blizzard chariot off-road vehicles. The Ice Age vehicle can gallop on the civil expressway. 450 went out for adventure, went out to take the most beautiful photos, went out for scientific research, and so on. The military highways are carried out by some military forces, such as Cambrian plant life testing, weapon testing, scientific research site testing, and civilized area construction. So military highways are even more shocking. Because all military highways are overpasses when they start to cross the snow country. Train tracks. Under the ground, the snow country train is moving fast and the speed of the flying chariot is the same. It looks like two eagles are flying in parallel. At the same time, a piece of overpass appeared below. The overpass was a military highway. On the highway, a piece of military tanks, Blizzard chariots, and military off-road vehicles appeared vividly. This moment is a more stalwart picture of the new era. At the same time, with the emergence of a piece of military overpass, a more natural scene began to appear. That is, the iceberg wall. After crossing the snow country train and opening the highway, a huge iceberg wall appeared. The iceberg fence has an overall height of 50 meters. Each iceberg fence has a height of 10 meters and a width of 50 meters. It looks like a piece of iceberg panel. Pieces of iceberg walls stand up, piece by piece, scattered in each area of the snowy wasteland area. These iceberg walls look like nature's supernatural craftsmanship. In fact, this is a new type of cold protection device developed by the Eastern Ice and Snow Research Institute. That is, energy absorption and refraction can be performed, and light can be refracted to a fixed area. For example, this kind of iceberg wall can refract light to the lighthouse, and then the lighthouse begins to absorb a large amount of thermal energy storage energy, and at the same time the iceberg wall can withstand certain cold currents. Wind and snow, bad weather, wind speed, strong wind and so on. So when gradually entering the civilized area and crossing the ice and snow fence, the air temperature began to rise gradually, and it is no longer -50 degrees here. You know that in the past 23 years, the temperature in the east has always been -50 degrees. It is the same regardless of any region in the world. Siberia is in the Mount Everest, the Antarctic Scientific Research Station, the Arctic Scientific Research Station, and some other harsh areas. And there are even terrifying places like Beidou below zero. But now there are new signs of life here. That is, it started to reach -35 degrees, which is a super change point, because the East belongs to a country in the Northern Hemisphere. It is not an equatorial country, it is a semi-cold country. When -35 degrees appears here, it can be seen in such a large territory, but it exudes so much vitality. Ying Ziyue saw this scene with a smile on his mouth, and he spoke to Li Hao Zero. Do you know why the temperature is so low? Feel it. That is that our country is really invincible. At this moment Ying Ziyue's voice is proud. That's right. This is the first time the whole country has entered a new era. A sacred era, with the layout for thousands of years. Chapter 487. Exuberant vitality. What is exuberant vitality? At this moment, the East is unfolding. That is, the unfolding of life follows the border, and then the civilized area outside the central region. Then I came to the snow country train, which gradually approached the eastern city area. At the same time, the temperature here began to drop, and a new breath of life appeared under the ground. Point first is the military highway, then the civilian highway, and then there are rows of blizzard vehicles, snow country trains, military off-road vehicles, tank cars, and even small civilian airships. This scene represents Pearl of the Orient. Point then there are towering willow trees, and I just saw a piece of willow trees and various trees of poplar trees. These are bigger than the trees in the civilization period, and they are tens of meters at every turn. The taller ones are hundreds of meters high, and the trees are even more amazing and more vigorous, because this is the tree that has undergone the second life explosion. Then there is a sea of dazzling flowers. The dense sea of flowers is full of vitality. Various paintings of peonies, rhododendrons, roses, etc. Numerous flowers and lilacs are all covering the area. Point after the snow country train. Here is close to the suburbs of human civilization. It can be said that this is a suburban city, so the vitality is extremely strong, and the Cambrian erupted here. At the same time -35 degrees becomes -30 degrees, and -30 degrees is a desperate temperature in one of the outside periods. But now this room has become a suitable temperature, because under this wind speed, one by one barriers have been set up in the east, so the cold wind no longer makes people unable to breathe, no longer becomes surprised, scared, and thunderous. Get up, breathe in the storm but become softer. So in this land, if humans wear normal cold-proof clothing, they will feel a slight chill when breathing normally, but there is no suffocating cold. Ying Ziyue watched this scene gracefully. Point only he knows how much effort has been put into this scene during the 24 years of the Ice Age. Too much. Point. Because in the old days, the Western Eagle Country and Rose Country still existed underground. When they were desperate, the East did not dare to go out in the City of Steel. At that time, the outdoor despair was extremely desperate. Point. But now it has truly undergone an earth-shaking, completely reborn change. Then, after crossing the Sea of Flowers, after the virgin forest area of the suburban plant area, a new scene began to appear. That is, in the suburbs of every city in the east, iron pillars of light about 100 meters high. These iron pillars are similar to light illuminators. In the civilization period, the iron pillars are about 100 meters in height. Point. The lighthouse iron pillar is different from the lighthouse. The purpose of this light iron pillar is to illuminate the sky. It can be said that the 450 light iron pillar will form scattered lights when the night comes, finally shining close to 8,000 meters high to build roads in the sky for airships, flying chariots, and flying motorcycles. At the same time, this kind of light iron pillar can be used for a certain period of time, absorb solar energy, and then emit weak energy. The 100-meter high iron pillar will emit heat energy day and night, and then let this area begin to suppress the cold wave. Lo, at this moment, the iron pillars of light were shining brightly in the sky. Holy. At the same time, Dragon City also appeared. At this moment, Ying Ziyue came to the first city in the East, Oriental Dragon City. Chapter 488. What is called a sacred and civilized area. Now a piece of iron pillars of light are standing. Blocks of iceberg walls are appearing proudly. The towering building of the eastern city and the experience of inland civilization is fully emerging. There is a very high life force here. Almost what you can see with the naked eye is a shocking scene. The snow country train tracks and the snow country trains winding like an oriental silver dragon. Point. The train began to move around the civilized cities. The train track is like a giant civilization seal structure. Inside the train track, this is the top high-end civilization in the East. It contains high-end scientific research such as medical machinery, scientific research, aviation, and people's livelihood. Point. Outside of civilization, there are times of civilization in the outer regions of the East, but this is already the most civilized country and the most civilized area on the first sign. And now Ying Ziyue has entered the civilized inland area after he saw the military highway, the intelligent iceberg fence, and the rolling light iron pillars. The protagonist saw a new scene. That is, the snow country train station. The co-pilot Li Hei also saw this scene. His expression was a little trembling, because the snow country train was too huge. This is the Longcheng Snow Country train station, which is the originating train station. Perhaps the filter is the overall height. At a height of 800 meters, the overall thickness directly spans 300 kilometers, like a giant blackbird's nest covering the ground. Above, countless huge buildings stand. We must know that this departure train station undertakes 1/3 of China's transportation. Transportation of various materials, factory materials, food, poultry, etc. It can be said that this is a national super-transportation center. Looking at the train station, Li Hao thought of the difficulties during the construction of the snow country train. In the civilization period, the human civilization was at 0.7, but when Dongfang Ying Ziyue proposed the snow country train station, and then built the snow country train, Li Hao could hardly imagine the terrifying construction process and the extremely difficult construction of the structure. Even after the snow country train station was built, he could fully imagine how great and sacred the scene would be. The huge snow country train station bears too much power, exploding and sacred. Now they are 100 kilometers away from the snow country train station, but they have seen the posture of the train station. It looks like a black wall, which is guarding the front of Dragon City continuously. During the Ice Age, the first wave of cold currents, the first wave of horrible shocks, blizzards, etc. all moved towards Dragon City. And then the snow country train station turned into the hardest city wall, and then carried waves of disasters. Therefore, the snow country train city wall is also called the Guardian City Wall, the first guardian of the Dragon City. This is Li Hao's perspective, and from Ying Ziyue's perspective, his eyes are shocked, which is a sign for the whole plan. He looked at the majestic snow country train, thinking too much in his mind. From the initial project to start a railway team, the engineering teams all united. They began to move forward and started infrastructure construction. And then built this snow country train station. Tens of millions of railway workers have been paid, and everyone has built trains to go to the station. Countless tower crane trucks. It can be said that it is almost a national project now. He has experienced 23 years and got the best testimony. At this moment, it seems as if the times are speaking more to Ying Ziyue. Congratulations, you got it right. Chapter 489. The flying height of the flying chariot is now 300 meters, which is a very low altitude point. If there were only small aircraft, gliders, and parachutes in the civilization period, it would be a safe altitude, but it also belongs to a dangerous height. As for a normal passenger jet fighter, it is an extremely dangerous height, because a little carelessness will lose weight, and then cause the crash of the plane. However, after the development of the two power devices of energy accumulation and fission and anti-gravity in the Ice Age, especially the flying combat vehicle is equipped with 3 major flight control systems, so the anti-gravity system at a height of 300 meters is turned on. The flying chariot is more like a flying butterfly flying UFO in a stable climate. It usually advances, because this time is like a trip. I use Ying Ziyue's sight to observe the current development of civilization in the East. A smart prompt also appeared on the main interface of the flying tank. There is still 100 kilometers away from Dragon City. Your current flying altitude is 300 meters, and the flight pressure is 0.0092. The flying speed is 120 kilometers per hour, and your current flying location is in the suburbs of the west of the city. During the civilization period, this was a famous Taoist temple. There were Taoist temples buried under the glacier here. Now Taoist temples are buried under the icebergs and become underground glaciers. It is estimated that exhibitions are currently open. The current temperature is -35 degrees, and the current wind speed is 6 levels per second. After the detailed intelligent data report at this moment, all the normal weather trends of atmospheric pressure appeared perfectly and stunningly at the same time, at a height of 300 meters. The picture below can be clearly observed with human eyes. The picture in this scene can be called unparalleled, that is, a sea of azure red flowers continuously undulates a sea of flowers. The waves are magnificent to the extreme, that is the most beautiful sea of flowers, ups and downs, enchanting and beautiful. Then came a piece of virgin forest, nearly 80 kilometers away. One was the virgin forest that began to form at the beginning of the 22nd of the Ice Age. All the trees that had been extinct during the virgin forest civilization appeared, and all the old big trees in those old trees appeared. One by one went deep into the sky. Some trees were more than 500 meters high, and the flying chariots had to evade flight point. Therefore, when the flying chariot flies by, you will see a sea of beautiful and unparalleled rolling flowers on one side. Those flowers are fluttering in the wind and blooming more brilliantly in more than 30 degrees below zero, showing the new evolution of the Ice Age. Formal life level. At the same time, those pieces of trees grow more brilliantly and stunningly. The trees carry a huge amount of vitality. The trees seem to be embellishing the extremely vigorous vitality of the East. Ying Ziyue is in a better mood, because here he feels the air oxygen concentration in the equatorial countries, as well as the quality of air testing. In the 23rd year of the Ice Age, the Cambrian plant exploded in preparation for 23 years. At this moment in the East, get the most extreme evolution point. Even if this is not an equatorial country, even if it is a cold part of the northern hemisphere, relying on the layout of the East and the layout of the whole people in the East, this is still the best place for oxygen and development. The co-pilot Li Hao was also watching this scene, his expression with enjoyment, because since childhood, he saw slices of glaciers. After he was born, he lived in the City of Steel, and what he saw outside the City of Steel were icebergs and snow-capped mountains. But now, after decades of time, he has seen the dazzling virgin forest and the sea of flowers. This is the rate of progress in the East. Chapter 490. There are still 80 kilometers away from the Eastern Dragon City, and the speed of the flying chariot is close to slow, and the flying chariot is advancing slowly, and at a constant speed point, because in this beautiful and soft environment, Ying Ziyue doesn't drive as fast as the speed. He wants to enjoy the possibility of this scene even more point, so the flying tank is slowly advancing, and he is also watching the amazing scenes. The snow country train is like a dragon-like body, and the iceberg enclosing it is absolutely beautiful line, and the iron pillar shining faintly, and the undulating sea of flowers, a piece of primitive forest. Then a new picture appeared, that is 0-30 degrees, although it is enough to freeze sea water or rivers. The Ice Age adopted a new small river direction. So this is a fast-moving river, that is not deep. The overall depth is 1 meter. The river is flowing in strings, flowing in the sea of flowers, and the virgin forest and the water are extremely clear. This is an unimaginable mountain spring water in the civilization period. There are various small fish and goldfish flowing in it, as well as river fish, river prawns and so on. The clear stream, the endless sea of flowers, and the beautiful virgin forest. A piece of stunning pictures are appearing. So at an altitude of 300 meters. From the new novel group 872,847,971 1. This group updates daily novels. From the new novel group 872,847,971, Ying Ziyue slowly lowered his height again. He was watching his river water. The river water was rippling and full of new vitality. Who could have imagined that there would be a small river flowing in the east of the Ice Age? The co-pilot Li Hao smiled. What he saw when he was born was the despair of the Ice Age, but fortunately, a City of Steel and Steam civilization in the east allowed him to start striving for self-reliance. But now I saw Ziyue he seemed to see the river of life, because with the emergence of this small river, the clear water of the Yangtze River in the civilization period, the clear water of the Yellow River, the latest forms of civilization will appear, and the unknown world of a great god will become. Then in the virgin forest, Ying Ziyue saw a patch of mammoths, which were giant elephant herds. Nearly tens of meters of mammoths ran wildly in the virgin forest. They stepped on the weeds, and began to use these flowers. The mammoths are huge, and exude an ancient aura. Behind the mammoths are dozens of saber-toothed tigers, showing a ferocious posture, making a hunting state. At the same time, there are some long-tailed rabbits, wild wolves, lions, pandas, various insects and wild animals, as well as bird flocks, and eagles all appear amazingly. Fine flowers. Wild animals began to make the virgin forest no longer lonely, so the sounds of birds and beasts continued to resound, and the sound of small rivers resembled the sounds of nature in a car, especially with light rain in the air. It is hard to imagine that this place will be a glacier. In the 23rd year of the century, this place will be an eastern country. The people of the West probably can't even dream about it. This place is so perfect. Ying Ziyue also had a smile on the corner of his mouth. He could imagine what a sacred and great era this is, full of all kinds of life, a sea of flowers, countless wild animals. They eat the weak, follow the laws of nature. They live in a happy and beautiful race. Point at the end of the 23rd Ice Age, the last day, Ying Ziyue saw the gift that nature gave to herself. That is, the Cambrian plant exploded. Life exploded, reaching the most vivid degree. For him this is the most beautiful gift. Point and now the cold wind is whistling. They are closer to the way home. Death chapter 491. It is December 30th, 23rd year of the Ice Age. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon the sky began to dim. It is still 50 kilometers away from the eastern Dragon City, but it can be clearly seen gradually from the height of 300 meters of the flying chariot, and 20 kilometers away is the rolling snow country train station. You must know that this is a 200-kilometer station, covering the east and west areas of Langcheng. It looks like a giant undulating city wall. The 453 is majestic and magnificent, and it stretches to the extreme. This is a shocking and stunning scene, because as the snow country train stations began to appear below, at the same time, the surface structure of the station is seaweed. We must know that the first thing we prepared for the Cambrian outbreak in the east was to increase the oxygen concentration. That is, the seaweed group. Point these are seaweeds that can survive on the seabed in space, because half of the air on the earth comes from the seabed and the other half comes from the seabed. And seaweeds in the depths of the sea can absorb carbon dioxide and then disperse, and oxygen releases oxygen, increasing the concentration of pure oxygen. And now at that huge snow country train station, the surface of the building was a patch of seaweed last time. The seaweed group is undulating and majestic, and it is extremely strong. Point. That is the most shocking island group. The area is too huge, one piece after another. It does not look like a human building. Point at the same time, these are more than a dozen kinds of seaweeds from various civilizations, like patches of weeds dotted on the snow country train. Point on the huge building. It looks like it has been painted with a layer of green paint, exuding devastating and vigorous vitality. Flying chariots at an altitude of over 100 meters to watch the 200-kilometer snow country train station. You will see a giant seaweed group of 200 kilometers. Pieces of buildings covering the surface of the snow country train. Seaweed clusters, plants similar to microbes, are densely packed, one piece after another, vigorous and incomparable. Ying Ziyue smiled at the corner of her mouth, because he proposed the seaweed group. Point from the first small piece of seaweed. Then he went to a large area of snow-capped mountains, followed by the explosion of plants and the explosion of life. It can be said that he witnessed the Cambrian explosion brought by the seaweed group with his own eyes. The flying chariot is still advancing, and now there is a new scene. That is, after 30 kilometers from the Dragon City, there is more than a shining lighthouse under the surface. Point at the same time, a wind monitoring device appeared one by one, which is a technology windmill. Point I saw windmills one by one, equipped with 3 blades, and then rotating. Point the windmill howl 0. The windmill began to rotate, the blades were spinning, and the vigorous vitality was showing brightly. Point this is a wind detection device as well as a temperature adjustment device. It is orderly around 360 degrees in each city. This technology windmill is scattered every 50 meters or even 100 meters to monitor the wind and temperature regulation, temperature timing, oxygen dispersion, air pressure fixation and so on. So now a piece of science and technology. Windmills are spinning. The windmills are spinning. They are equipped with a piece of seaweed, a sea of flowers, and rolling flora, giant trees, snow country train tracks, and the orderly highway. This scene is beautiful. Science fiction has renderings of many eras. This is probably the poetic age that mankind has always imagined, equipped with high-tech and high-tech science fiction, with exuberant plants, fresh air, oxygen concentration, and so on broke out. This is Eastern civilization. This is what every professor in the major high-level scientific research institutes in the East, they have worked hard for. Now that everything has been achieved, They watch the scene of this new era, and this is truly in line with the first-class civilization. Now, Ying Ziyue was opening her mouth to the air. Welcome to the first-level civilization. Chapter 492. Now the scene before me appears. A new world and a new picture appeared. That is, after passing through the undulating windmills of science and technology, we have come to a regional era point after the big windmills of science and technology. It is the Dragon City of the East. Is also the destination of this flying chariot. During the civilization period, Langcheng was called Yanjing, and it was once the most prosperous city. It was one of the cities on the border between the south and the north point. Now the main interface of the flying car prompts. You enter the Oriental Dragon City, and the automatic prevention and control system is currently on. Identity testing is in progress. Identity testing is complete. Your identity is Ying Ziyue, the Eastern team leader. Your identity check is complete. Welcome back, Dongfang02 team leader. Currently flying at an altitude of 172 meters. The Dragon City Military Aviation Center and the Ground Defense Center Security Center have been issued defense prompts, and your identity has been verified. The Air Defense Fixed Point Strike Danger System has been lifted. And the ground satellite locking system has been lifted. The air safety flight perception system has been turned on, and the current flying tank is adjusted to turbo flight mode. Your flying speed starts to slow down. Your flying height starts to decrease. You have entered the Dragon City living area. Welcome to the world of science and technology. Now on the main interface of the cockpit of the flying tank, a smart reminder appears. Time of flight. Every minute, every second, there are information prompts. In the cockpit, Ying Ziyue nodded with satisfaction. In a year's time, Dongfang is very important to the development of science and technology point, especially those intelligent military technology systems, as well as flight control management systems. Technology management systems are extremely amazing, so this scene can also be called an amazing flight control management system and a perfect technology management system point. As a result, any military aircraft that wants to go to important cities must perform identity matching and identity positioning point. Later, you can only enter after getting permission, which guarantees a high degree of science fiction security and military communication management. The era of science fiction element also proves the power of the East to control the territory. At the same time appeared in front of my eyes, the three walls in front of Dragon City. You know, Dragon City is now a technology city, and the construction style still adopts the southern city sky corridor inside the city wall. There are skyscrapers, and those skyscrapers connect the air corridors one by one, so it looks like science fiction is incomparable when it is magical. And this scene that appears before my eyes is like that of the first city wall before. This is an ice blue giant city wall with an overall height of 500 meters. It looks like a magical building, and this city wall is 60 meters wide. The width inside is also one of the official meeting rooms, which is both a defensive city wall and an official meeting room point. The Azure City Wall adopts the 12th generation graphene structure and is equipped with energy concentrating heat absorption as standard point. It means that this kind of city wall has an extremely cold defense, which can defend against waves of air currents. So when a wave of extremely cold airflow came to the east, the lighthouses on the periphery of the east will carry out the first wave of defense point, then icebergs carried out the second step of defense, then the iceberg walls set the third defense, the primeval forest conducts the fourth defense. There are also iceberg buildings for the fifth and fifth defense. Then came the snow country train station for the sixth defense, and the seventh cold wave defense is here. That is, the Glacier City Wall, also known as the Graphene Dragon City Wall. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 493. Now this majestic city wall is stunning. This graphene is a blue city wall, standing in the first area of Dragon City. It can be said that this section of the city wall has a great effect. It can ensure that there are tens of millions of people directly in the city, and can maintain the safest and most stable air pressure and temperature. At the same time, it can also guarantee the temperature and air pressure in this city. Scientific research and Cambrian plant life test point the graphene city wall covers an area of 10 kilometers. After crossing these city walls, there are some vegetable greenhouses on the farms, and there are also poultry breeding areas in these farms. There are also some storage areas for crops, and there are also some research areas for biological research institutes. With the flying chariot continuing to cross another 10 kilometers, then there appeared the second wall, which is a building with a steel style. The width of this city wall is 10 meters, and it cannot be used in the construction of meeting rooms. At the same time, the height is 200 meters. This is an extremely simple steel city wall. This city wall is mainly used to prevent earthquakes, because earthquakes in the Ice Age are large-scale plate collisions, which will cause large-scale collisions with surrounding plates. So the steel fence can prevent large area pressure caused by plate collision. At the same time, this steel city wall can also protect against flood impacts, and some dearer turn to unknown weather impact disasters, such as extremely severe hail weather, rainstorms, and other severe weather impacts. It can be said that this steel city wall is also very effective. The steel city wall is like a steel guard around the Dragon City, protecting against earthquakes and floods. But the co-pilot Li Hao smiled, because he also participated in the design of this section of the city wall. Now he had taken off the walkie-talkie and then spoke to Ying Ziyue, leader of the report. The steel city wall is equipped with underground passages underground. Once a flood or a large disaster occurs, the steel city wall can introduce disasters into the underground passage. This kind of underground passage is also called the second passage of disasters. Through some floods and a lot of hailstorms, etc., finally wash the flood into the sea. At the same time, the suspension train is also equipped next to this kind of steel city wall, which means that once a threat occurs, the suspension train can quickly move to the surrounding people to a safe area. At the same time, this kind of steel city wall is also an arched building, which looks like it is a giant support frame that supports the city. Therefore, the role of the steel city wall is to support and to protect the foundation of the Dragon City, including each city, to protect the geological and landforms of the Dragon City, and at the same time, to carry out the external severe weather defense. This is its role. At the same time, the area of the steel city wall is 5 kilometers. Within 5 kilometers is flat ground, and underneath the flat ground is an underground passage. After Li Hao finished his report, the flying fighters continued to fly letters, and within these 5 kilometers, there was all flat ground, but each flat ground was inserted in the front of the military restricted area, and no one, Li Hao, was allowed to enter. Flying the first graphene city wall, the second steel protective city wall. After crossing these two city walls, I started to come to the edge of a piece of intelligent information projection. This is one of the outer cities. Now, a magical scene appeared in front of me. That is, circles of technological glossy projection appeared. A new smart technology wall appeared in the projection. This is the first civilization, the city wall of projection technology. Chapter 494. This is a brand new scene. That is, a silver sci-fi wall appears directly. This is the last protection wall of Dragon City. This is also known as the first class civilization wall of the Ice Age. This is a silver white sci-fi wall, now flying at an altitude of 100 meters. The height of the sci-fi wall is 300 meters. The use of smart graphene and holographic projection devices means that this kind of sci-fi wall can be realized, and the hands can touch the emotions in the air, which is truly equipped with the ability of a first-class city wall. Now the flying tank is very slow, flying slowly. In the main driving, Ying Ziyue watched this scene. And finally an intelligent prompt appeared on the main interface of the flying chariot. You have entered the sci-fi wall area. The sci-fi wall is a first-class civilized building built by the East in June 23rd of the Ice Age. The science and technology city wall uses graphene, holographic projection, and substantial projection. The ultramorphic wall is equipped with air energy, anti-nuclear energy, and air energy projections, which are substantially enhanced and seem to be a scene of projection. In fact, Touching it by hand is like a giant city wall. It has a sense of collision, and it has a strong self-repair and self-protection ability. First of all, the sci-fi wall is initially available, which can defend against the shock wave of nuclear weapons. There is a defense mechanism that can prevent the tiny impact gas in the air. Once the wall of air is locked and aimed at a large weapon, the defense will automatically start. Device, which can then defend against large weapon impact and large flame impact. At the same time, the bridge of science and technology will also project images, intelligent data, such as the air pressure changes in each area throughout the entire process, as well as the sudden temperature difference in scenic spots around the world. The degree of ground collapse and the degree of earthquake can be prepared in advance. At the same time, the technology wall uses gas energy devices, which means that large-scale energy gathering can be carried out to collect energy and prepare for light. This means that a kind of city wall can absorb beams of bright light, can emit a huge amount of energy, and then emit energy in the dark night or power outage state point under the dark night. This can also become an iron pillar of energy in a state of emergency, and then carry out a large-scale magnificent shining on every area, every region, mountains, and rivers. The energy beam is extremely strong. The city of science and technology can also be attacked under the defensive state, such as destroying snow-capped mountains within 1,000 kilometers. Using concentrated energy light wave impact, and also destroying large-scale missiles that enter the airspace. At the same time, the wall of sci-fi has a future direction. Dome defense point. This means that the state of defense has not been perfected yet successfully. Once it is perfected, then this set of technology wall system, before it can spontaneously form a circle, it can completely form a protective projection shield, similar to a giant umbrella. The entire city, including protection, cannot cause any damage to the city, even if it encounters a large-scale impact, meteorite swarms, and a wave of natural disaster such as a deadly cold wave point after the introduction of the main interface of the flying chariot. Ying Ziyue couldn't help showing a shocked look, because this was the first weapon he saw of the Eastern first-class civilization with substantial significance. This is like a defensive weapon, but it also has a terrorist attack weapon with a strong killing intent. This is the direction of the real first-class civilization, and now he has begun to enter the bridge of science and technology. Chapter 495. This date is now recorded in the Eastern Chronicles because of its importance. That is at 6:30 p.m. on December 30, 23rd of the Ice Age. At the moment, when the sky is going to be dark, the lighthouses in the east are turned on. The lights of each city, the iron pillars, outdoor lighthouses, outdoor lighting installations, and every city wall has lighting devices turned on, which seems to be turned on for one person, and it seems to be for welcoming someone, and this person is the Ying Ziyue of the East, and he is also the most important person. Now Longqing is still 3 kilometers away from the city. The speed of the flying chariot is already extremely slow. Ying Ziyue wants to greedily watch the scenes in front of him and watch all the changes. He wants to enjoy watching every change in the motherland, every change in scientific research. Now he has already crossed the 3 city walls and crossed the barriers one by one to a truly safe inland civilized living city. Now he looked back, the no man's land, and the lighthouses outside the city were shining again and again. Bright light shining on the sky, bright light beacon. The lighthouse above the wind turbines has reserved lights one by one, and all the lights on the city wall begin to shine. Now although the sky is starting to get dark, the bunches of lights once again illuminate the place white. The co-pilot Li Hao smiled. Since he was born, he likes lights and day, because in the Ice Age it was okay in the east, and night in the west means despair, because in the dark night, the underground of the holy water in the west would be invaded by a deadly cold wave such as power failure in the dark. Dark night means death, and during the day they can see the light and warm them faintly. And under the protection of the Iron City in the east, the people inside can only hear the roaring wind, the violent hail and the sound of the cold current invading. So in Li Hao's memory, what she has heard since childhood is there was a storm outside the city wall, so he liked it very much seeing the lights. The lights are shining brightly. Scenes of divine light are shining on the sky, and the sky becomes pure white. At the same time, the sound of gongs and drums, shocking sounds, Touching sounds, cheering sounds, and music sounds can be heard throughout the city. Ying Ziyue has a smile on the corner of her mouth. This is the feeling of going home. It is the last day of the 23rd year of the Ice Age and the last few hours of the last day, but they have already returned! Zero fine flowers. Ying Ziyue was full of emotion, because only he knew the significance of this return. Took the engineer Li Hao to the Nanbing Science Research Station, and saw the first Nanping Chuan Scientific Research Project in the East Point. I also went to the terrifying place of the 10 largest factories in Africa, and saw how desolate and remote it is. Later, I also saw the greatness and sacredness of the military base on Mount Everest. I saw weapons testing bases one by one in Siberia, the Pacific Ocean platform, felt the storms and the greatness of our navy. Finally, I arrived in the country of agriculture, the country of Western industry, and looked at the agricultural greenhouses. The industry walked by the large factories, and looked at the people of different skin colors. Then Ying Ziyue has only one kind of longing left, and that is homesickness. Witnessing the great country now, the familiar breath. This is the place where he lingers in his dreams. Many years later he remembered that it is still the case, because he has paid for this place for decades. Death chapter 496. Now he came to this hometown. The lights of each city are turned on, the light of the city walls is turned on, and the bright and sacred light is shining. He felt great and sacred. He smiled at this moment, sincere, innocent and clean. Later, the ground lights were also turned on, because the flying chariot has entered the Langcheng Military Special Airport. This airport is a special airport, which means that it can only be landed on 457. For some of the Eastern University of Science and Technology team leaders and special personnel, only special and important personnel can fly into this airport. The remaining personnel generally fly in Langcheng Outer Airport, then take the suspension train to Go Point. And now in this airport, Ying Ziyue's flying chariot landed slowly, and then the intelligent robot began to detect, and at the same time a prompt appeared on the main interface of the flight policy. You have landed at the Langcheng Military Airport, and are undergoing identity scan detection, sequence scan detection, and physical fitness detection. At the same time, basic link testing, safety testing, wireless testing, basic flight and introduction testing are being carried out. At this moment, Ying Ziyue got off the plane after nearly 200 detailed inspections because Ying Ziyue and Li Hao went to the west and around the world for nearly a year. After the disaster of the Ice Age, various ancient bacteria appeared due to large-scale disasters. Therefore, this kind of testing must be carried out. Ying Ziyue is satisfied that this is a country where scientific and rigorous medicine is developed, and everything is carefully and rigorously. After getting off the plane, he opened the door of the cabin, and he saw acquaintances, old professors from major scientific research institutes, as well as the person in charge of the snow country train, the person in charge of the suspension train, the person in charge of the Western Sky Corridor, and the person in charge of the space elevator. All appeared one by one. There are also old doctors one by one who are responsible for the Cambrian life outbreak, as well as the development of medicine and oceanography. Every old doctor has come, because they came to welcome an important person this time, that is Ying Ziyue. Now there are close to 300 people in a group of high-level people, nearly 200 in a group of doctoral scholars, and a total of close to 600 people, all of them wearing military uniforms. These 600 people stood upright in a sudden, and then they saluted Ying Ziyue. Everyone had tears in their eyes, and they looked at Ying Ziyue. Because Ying Ziyue has paid too much. He has been patrolling every plan for a year, and at the same time supervising the progress of the Zhulang rebirth plan, and supervising the world's 3 major projects, the global channel, space elevator, air corridor. It can be said that he truly dedicated himself to this country, so he deserves everyone's salute. Ying Ziyue and Li Hao also stood straight, then tidied up their military uniforms, and then saluted. Now this scene belongs to the salute of 2 generations. Everyone sighed. Some old people couldn't help crying, because they saw this great scientific research era. They were moved. They thought of the civilization period. They thought of the loss of many old friends. Their minds were complicated, but their tears are tears of joy. Zero. And this scene is called the last day of the 23rd year of the Ice Age. A true leader of the East, and 600 elderly people for the country and the people. They met for the first time a year later to salute. This meeting also determined the East's complete finalization of every plan. 5.5 also determined the next step into the future era. This is a real effort of all the senior management and their love for the country and the people. They really interpret what is called the Eastern Old Man. At that time, the cold wind was bleak. Ying Ziyue led 600 people into Dragon City. He seemed to have taken this great country into a new world. That is, the first-class civilization of the East was created by them. Without anyone's help, they defeated everything. Chapter 497. Now after getting off the speeding car, Ying Ziyue and his group did not get on the floating train. Instead, they started walking into the city. The city was brightly lit, and every building in the city was lit up with bright lights. The high-rise buildings are magical. The architectural style of Dragon City adopts the southern style, so it looks magical and mysterious, and the buildings are mysterious and tall. Those buildings are basically 100 stories high, and they are equipped with sky corridors on the outside of the floor. There are seaweeds, and there are patches of flowers, so those high-rise buildings look like they are surrounded by seaweed and flowers. As for the sky corridor, one building is connected to each other, which looks sacred and mysterious. This is the air corridor, which is one of the 02 future buildings, and next to Ying Ziyue, the building designer Xihai began to introduce, leader of the report. First of all, this kind of building adopts an all-metal structure, equipped with graphene for protection, and is equipped with ultra-high oxygen concentration. Based on the appearance, this guarantees that the building has a strong degree of sturdiness, as well as the degree of cold resistance and cold resistance. At the same time, coupled with the industrial corridor, it means that it is a city, like a support frame connected to each other. The whole city is equipped with air corridors, so those air corridors will be connected to each other, so the city looks mysterious, majestic, huge and powerful. Every city is equipped with futuristic trains and suspended trains. The working place is also divided into air cities, which are air corridor cities, and normal human civilization cities. So Dragon City is a city with air corridors as the main city looks very magical. As for the northern city, it is the paradise of giants. They are skyscrapers that look extremely mysterious when they are entwined. After the building designer finished speaking, Ying Ziyue nodded directly. He is enjoying it very much now. Because looking at the vague and huge buildings in front of him, all he can sigh is the sense of mystery. This is in line with the East, and those brand new and magical buildings are in line with the present East. The first is the all-metal structure of the future buildings, the magical style. The air corridor, which looks huge, mysterious and huge, and the buildings of the eastern limit are vividly reflected here. Then there are levitation tracks one by one in mid-air. The levitation tracks were available in the civilization period. This is a levitation train, but the eastern levitation train is equipped with a small amount of nuclear fission and a slight anti-gravity device. So it seems that it is even more mysterious at an altitude of several kilometers. The suspended train is like an airship in the air, and a passenger car in the air. Then quickly move to every area, every region. This is another scene of beautiful scenery. Ying Ziyue continued to watch, and his expression showed a comfortable smile. Then, it started to get dark. The group did not eat. For them, everyone's working hours are very tight, especially the Zhulang rebirth plan, which is carried out to the last 1/3 of the time. A new era is about to start, and now Ying Ziyue is back home. He was standing at the door of the living room. His parents were discussing. The two old people are 80 or 90 years old. They have silvery white hair, but with a supplement of the life medicine, the cells are rejuvenated. They are piercing, and there is no tiredness of the old people at all, and some are just endless. Fighting spirit. Ying Ziyue is very satisfied with her family and a big country. Some things have to pay a great price, such as his unintentional marriage, and love in making plans. Chapter 498. In the small warm room, Ying Ziyue's parents also saw Ying Ziyue. Ying Ziyue is now wearing a black military uniform, like a sculpture. His haircut is meticulous and his expression is stern. Ying father nodded in satisfaction. He thought that 23 years ago, his son was the same, and he resolutely participated in the construction of the Snow Country train and the construction of the global steel city. There are also civilization bunkers, global food reserves, and coastal city evacuation, coastal city protection, flood defense, earthquake defense, and so on. Now he looked at the child again. And he saw himself at that time point, and at this moment Ying Ziyue is also smiling, because he is looking at his father. He watched his parents discussing his plans, and he also saw himself, when he was young, exactly the same, without a trace of change. Ying Ziyue said, "Mom and Dad, what will it look like in 23 years?" Ying Ziyue smiled. After Ying Ziyue spoke, then smiled on her face. This scene is like 23 years ago. Ying Ziyue once asked her parents, that is, if you close the country and stop buying anything from the West and no longer open anything to the inside, and then the East independently develops its own supply, then can a system of independent supply be completed? This is a question that was raised 23 years ago. That is to say, the country began to shut the country and no longer buy anything from the West, and the East produces its own food, vegetables, meat, beans, food, and everything else. At that time Ying Ziyue's parents were in charge of the import and export of the Asia Pacific region. His mother did not hesitate to speak directly. That is, there is no problem. In the current era, no matter what the East faces, there are no problems, no matter in the civilization period or in the Ice Age. And now Ying Ziyue speaks heartily. That's what it will be like 23 years from now. Ying Ziyue's father, this resolute looking old man, stepped forward. He patted Ying Ziyue on the shoulder and then smiled. 23 years ago the Ice Age came. We built the Snow Country train, we built the City of Steel, and we also built the residence of mankind. So our place is full of vitality, full of exuberance, and we began to continue civilization, start to develop, and start to progress. 23 years later, this place has become the only first-class civilization in the world. It is mysterious and powerful, full of infinite unknown possibilities, but there is also a large amount of life here. So in 23 years, we may enter a two-level civilization, or may enter a more unknown era, or the people of the East will begin to start on life planets one after another, survive and start to grow. The banner of Yanhuan will not only waver on the earth, but also develop on the rest of the ancient stars of life, and in any other area. Now Ying Ziyue's father replied sonorously and powerfully, he is not like anyone because he is more than 90 years old. He has truly seen the overall changes and improvements in the civilization period and the Ice Age, and he has also seen the overall changes in technology, medicine, machinery, aviation, etc. in an era. So now he speaks. His voice is extremely firm and proud. Ying Ziyue also showed a smile on his face. He hugged his father. You will see, no matter how long it has been. Chapter 499. I'm only going home after a year now. Ying Ziyue now looks at the house at home, because in order to enter the science fiction city, the houses in each city are undergoing major renovations from the inside and the outside. Ying Ziyue's house belongs to a special protection zone in the military area of Langcheng. Generally, the families of the leaders of the higher level teams will live here. The environment here is elegant, the air quality is fresh, and it also belongs to the core area of the protective layer. And this house is on the 90th floor. Now standing on the balcony overlooking the Dragon City, the wind turbine has become a smart generator. It looks magical. The rotating blades one by one start to shake and then rotate. At the same time, the steam pipes in the city have become underground steam pipes. So it seems that the city's steam style is gradually disappearing and replaced by a strong technological style. In midair, there are families of suspended trains flying at high speed. At the same time, there are pieces of industrial corridors. Those industrial corridors are so magical that tourists and people can buy supplies, go to work, or even watch the scenery. In short, this is an extremely magical city. Extremely magical. Now Ying Ziyue was standing by the balcony, and he spoke. Now he seems to be reminiscing about the past, reminiscing about the past one by one. He spoke. The Ice Age is at the approaching moment of the Ice Age. The East has begun preparing for the City of Steel. You must know that the city of steel is very good. The steel making plants and building material plants in every city in the east have started steel storage and construction material storage. At the same time, the celebrating teams are on standby and preparing. Then there is the snow country train. The construction of the snow country train is extremely difficult because it was the most difficult plan proposed in the civilization period, but it was completed in the civilization period. The train tracks were laid, the snow country train was built, and the railway engineering teams were called for one by one. The development of civilization, whether it is the virgin forest or the vast mountains and rivers without man's land, all major desolate places have begun to develop and construct snow country train tracks. Then disaster is approaching, the global temperature drops, and the West has also started the Ice Age defense plan, but they don't know how terrible it is this time. At this moment Ying Ziyue was standing by the balcony. He was talking to his parents, as if he was talking to the seer. His voice is elegant, calm, dignified, with a smile. This is a very elegant child. Then he continued to speak. So Rose Country chose the underground city plan. They started in underground communities, then underground small cities, then underground and then successively combined, and then became the super basement plan, also known as the new civilization. The Rose Nation chose the bunker project, which means that the bunkers can defend against various disasters. They are called bunker civilization, semi-underground civilization, and eternal civilization. Then only Dongfang chose to confront. The snow country train began to test, and the snow country train began to gallop after the construction was completed. That was the greatest scene. It started galloping around every region and province in the country. So when the snow country train appeared and began to wander through all the provinces, the people began to cheer. The coastal cities were also completely evacuated, and the east also began to wrap up. Ying Ziyue's voice is calm now. He is smiling, as if he is reminiscing, because this is a memory 23 years ago. He was talking about the scenes as if they were reappearing. At this moment, he is extremely happy, because he has done a lot of things right, and everything is particularly correct. He has lost a lot, but he has also gained a lot, so he does not owe it. It is worth it. As the captain of the Oriental Zulang project, he was upright and upright. Chapter 500. And now Ying Ziyue is standing by the balcony. Then he continued to speak. Then the Ice Age came. 100 days ago, the city of steel began to appear, and the construction of the city of steel was extremely difficult, because all the cities had to be overthrown, and then a brand new city would be built. The building materials are scarce, the steel is scarce, and at the same time it needs to be equipped with electricity and cold-proof devices. So the very old and unimaginable steam appears. It is a very old steam device, steam steel pipes, steam giants, steam pipes, and boiling wind generators and heating boilers. These warming devices one by one appeared. So the era began. The city of steel appeared. The national snow country train appeared. And then the weather began to get colder, and the ice age of human horror arrived. When the first wave of cold wave arrived, the east showed its defense of terror. After Ying Ziyue finished speaking, Father Ying spoke up. Then a new era was opened. No one would have thought that the steam civilization would follow, but after the steam civilization, a great and magical era was opened. The East has launched various confrontations against the collision of plates, against the cold wave of the Ice Age, and the outbreak of Cambrian life. Crops are scarce, all kinds of scarcity. No one retreats, no one chooses to retreat. So the steam civilization begins to move towards semi-sci-fi. Semi-sci-fi civilization began to move towards science fiction civilization, and then in the end it turned directly into scientific and technological civilization. However, this is only the beginning. In the end, the West began to develop. The West became the land of agriculture and industry. It has become the best land of agriculture and industry, and it has also created the best agro-industrial intelligence paradise, which is magical. Then the city has also changed. No one would have imagined that in the next ice age, such changes will happen. The East will become those magical cities, floating cities in the sky, strange and magical, and possess a new vitality. Vitality, Father Ying said. He sighed incomparably. In the 23rd year of the Ice Age, there were 17 major disasters. The Ice Age cold wave, global cold, air collisions, floods hitting earthquake disasters, and so on were fatal disasters one by one. Then the East began to rise amidst such disasters, began to regenerate, and began to possess vigorous vitality. Zero fine flowers technological cities appeared, and then airships appeared. Ying Ziyue's father is 90 years old this year. This is a real old man, but now his thinking is extremely clear. He remembers everything from the civilized world to the Ice Age, and he has also participated in one by one, which can be called a giant project point. Now he looked at Ying Ziyue, then patted his shoulder and spoke. Zero, you did it right. You did everything right. Ying Ziyue also smiled. That's right. He did everything right in this one by one horror movie plan point. I also paid a huge risk and took a plan one by one point, but he also proved himself, because now the West has become the best agricultural land. The East can fully develop scientific research. Now the Zhulang rebirth plan and the civilization plan are also in full progress. 1/3 of the project is completed. 2/3 of the project is now completed. The final 3/3 project is about to be carried out, and after the 3/3 project, it will enter the future era, and it will enter the era of magic. Death. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.